Welcome back to the SAF1 Racing League in the Circuit of the Americas with Tier 2. Right, heading into qualifying, we have a track of 14 drivers out on track today. It will be JD, Van Vieren, Saki Bene, G. Fitzgerald, Mr. M. Hughes. Seems like G. Fitzgerald having a little moment there. MGST, and what's that? Slayer disqualified from this session already. Down the order, MGST, Detoy, AYB, The Mechanic, Carefree Ernie, and G. Atozi. Right. The Circuit of the Americas. Quite an interesting track here, located just south. Just located in the hills southeast of Austin. The Circuit of the Americas is a challenging 3.41 mile track, combined with 20 corners, 11 to the left and 9 to the right. Now, a very interesting track. The Circuit of the Americas is a track track design that incorporates Silverstone's legendary Mackett's, Beckett's and Chapel sequences. The famous Senna Aces of Interlagos, Hockenheim Arena Bends, and there's even a replica of Istanbul's Turn 8. It's a circuit designed not just for visual spectate, but for peer racing itself, as this track has been deliberately designed to be wide and for more overtaking opportunities. So this should be a very good race. Of course, we do have contenders for the championship, and let's see who puts his car on pole position. Right, so the first car will be the Mechanic. No, that'll be the Alpine of Mr. M, only on an outlap. He will be followed by Hughes on an outlap. Red Bull of AYB, Invalidation. It's JD, currently is on a flyer, and let's see what kind of pace he can produce as he makes his way into 19 right now. Your penultimate corner into 20. He will go in a moment, and let's see what times he can produce. This will only be good enough. We have a moment there with someone. This is only good enough for a 1:35.9, and that is the time to beat thus far. Next across the line, will this be the McLaren of Giottosi? Going very, very slowly, so expect him to go for another hot lap. Right. Let's see who will be next to cross the line. Will be the Mechanic, but already running on a 1:51, so that'll definitely be going out for another lap. He will be followed by the Alfa Romeo of, was it Van Vieren? Yes, it is. Van Vieren making his way through 20 now. So far running off the pace on a 1:44, 45, 46, and only good enough for a 1:46.6. Right, next across the line, let's jump on board with MGST, currently on an outlap. Next will be the Alpine of Mr. M. Is he currently on a flyer? Well, already running in the 1:20, so I do not expect him to be on a flyer now. He will definitely be going again. The Red Bull of AYB with an invalidation, and now it will be the Ferrari of, will it be the toy? Only on an outlap. So as always, things are a little bit quiet down on track for qualifying, but expect things to heat up once the race starts, of course. Right, so as Giottosi now blasts down a 0.69 miles straight, let's see what he will have to say, currently on a flyer. Jumping to the Ferrari of the toy. Still, he's currently on an outlap. And Van Vieren, what is he doing? Going into the pits as we speak. G. Fitzgerald, invalidation, followed by the Haas of Hughes. Also jumping into the pits. The Alpine of the Mechanic. Currently flying. Now, can he get himself on provisional pole? Not this time around, as he goes and he invalidates this lap. He's definitely going to have to go again. Giottosi to cross the line next. Already running into the 1:43s, 44s, 45s, and this will be no good. Only good enough for P2 at the moment, but expect these times to drop. Next will be Van Vieren, but he's down on his pace, so expect him to jump into the pits. Right, jumping to the Mercedes of Carefree, only on an outlap, as well as Ernie Burney also on his outlap. MGST currently running on a flyer. The Mercedes of Carefree having a little bit of a moment there. Let's see. Does MGST have the pace to put his car on provisional pole for this lap? Right, through 19 he goes. Into 20. Hug the curb. Get maximum speed. Avoiding the apex. Down the main straight he goes for a 1:35.9. And that is provisional pole for now. Right, AYB. Can that Red Bull snatch pole position away from MGST, having a little bit of wheel spin as Mr. M goes fast as a 135.5, as AYB now crosses the line, a 136.1, only good enough for P4. Right, the toy now. 34, 35. Only good enough for P4, so he pushes AYB back into P5. The mechanic now. Let's see what pace he can produce. Running a little bit wide, no invalidation, but he jumps into the pits right now. Giatozzi taking it really slowly back into the pits. And next will be Van Vieren. Right, so 10 minutes of quali remaining. So let's see where Van Vieren can position this car. Coming through 16, 17 and 18 right now. Attacking the curb. Hard into 19. Let's see. Coming into your penultimate corner and your final corner right about now. Slow. That's going to hurt his time. Invalidation. Only good enough for 138.6. That would have put him in P6, but it was an invalidation. So next to cross the line will be MGST hopping into the pits, and the Mercedes of Ernie Burney now into turn 20. He goes 34, 35, good enough for P2. So a good lap from Ernie Burney, pushing his car all the way up into P2 for the moment. The Red Bull of AYB, I think he'll be jumping into the pits. Yes, he does. Now the Mercedes of Carefree with an invalidation. Did he have a moment? A little bit of a moment. Then it's JD and Detroit jumping into the pits now. G. Fitzgerald also with an invalidation. He will be followed by Mr. M also jumping into the pits. Right. Spectating JD. So expect him to set off for a new flyer. Into the final corner he goes, down to the throttle, DRS wide open, and off he goes for a new flyer. Right, Ernie Burney. As we have a new driver that just joined, and Hector has just joined, so 14 jumps to 16. So that's going to make things a little bit more interesting. Really excited to see what Pia is going to do. Of course, he is a new driver, so I expect to see some good results from him, hopefully. So Ernie Burney now makes his way through 16, 17 and 18. Hard on the throttle, running a little bit wide. But he is, of course, already down on his time, running on a 1 minute 38. And expect him to jump into the pits. Back to the Mercedes of Carefree Veal. Seems that he's only cruising it. Yes, expect him to go back to the pits after having a slight moment of his own. And next to cross will be G. Fitzgerald. Currently running in the 1 minute 25. He's got 2 more corners to go and 10 seconds to get himself onto pole position. Let's see. Into the final corner now. Runs a little bit wide. DRS will be activated now. P10 jumps to P7. Not a bad lap from G. Fitzgerald, but we all know he's got a little bit more pace than that. On to G. Atozi. What does he have to say? Stays P8. Jumping to the Ferrari of It's JD. Can JD push himself up the order? Currently sitting in P4. Around the final corner he goes. No, it is an improvement on his time by 1/10, but he stays P4. Next will be the Williams of the mechanic. No, not the mechanic. I think it's MGST. So as you can see, battery fully charged, and he sets off for a new flyer now. Now it will be the Alpine of the mechanic, yet to set a time. So let's see what kind of pace the mechanic will produce today. ERS fully charged and expect him to go for a flyer right about now as DRS is wide open. AYB running really wide. Maybe pushing the limits out of that car, but no harm, no foul. Keeps it on track, and expect him to slap on a new set of softs and go for a new lap. So let's go back to Who will that be? That'll be the Toy. The Toy going through 16, 17, and 18. Does he attack the curbs? Runs a little bit wide. Right, into 19 he goes. Attacks the curb, down onto the throttle early. Avoids the curb. No, he's not on a lap, guys. Sorry for that. DRS wide open, and now he sets off for a new flyer. Next to cross, G Fitzgerald only into the pits. And Giottosi, what does he do? He is currently on a flyer. Can he improve and jump all the way from P8 maybe to P6? Time will tell. No, it's one spot. Jumps himself up into P7. Right, next to cross the line will be the Ferrari of JD, but he will be jumping into the pits right now. So let's go to MGST. Currently sitting in P3. He is fighting for the championship as we speak. So let's see if MGST has anything to say and maybe put that car on provisional pole. Coming to the final corner, he does seem to be a little bit off his time. A 34, a 35. No, my mistake. He goes fastest. That is provisional pole for MGST on a 135.5. Not a bad lap from him. Not bad at all from MGST. So just for interest's sake, let's just quickly go to your classification. So MGST is in a battle with True Loki, who unfortunately cannot join tonight. So MGMC leading the championship by 105 points and True Loki in second with 93. So this will be a crucial race for MGST to extend that gap on True Loki. And get all the closer to winning this championship. So if MGST can put his car into P1 for this race, or even P2 for that matter, he will win this championship. So all riding on MGST. Will he be able to clinch this championship right here tonight? All eyes will be on MGST. Right, who is currently on a flyer? The mechanic on a flyer. Only good enough for a 158 so far. And we all know he's got much more pace than that. Saki Biana, Yukes, and Carefree yet to set times. So time will tell what these guys will be able to do. MGST hops into the pits. Next will be the Haas of... Will it be Yukes? Yes, it is Yukes. I've just seen something. Right, the mechanic going into 16, 17, 18. Of course, this lap is currently a flyer that is on. Let's see, does he have the pace, the mechanic, just to improve that time to jump all the way from P10, maybe into the top 5, into the 1 minute 32 as he enter the final corner. 34, 35, it might be tight. Jumps P7, and, well, he would not have enough time to slap on a new set of softs. So maybe one more hot lap for him on the same set of tires as G Fitzgerald crosses the line, and he goes P9. Next to cross will be the Mercedes of Ernie Burney, who takes provisional pole away from MGST. Good lap from Ernie Burney. Next to cross the line, that'll be the Toy jumping into the pits. And will he have enough time to go into the pits, slap on a new set of softs, and go out for one more outlap? I don't think time is on his side. Carefree Veal now. Down the main straight he goes, but already he's running on an invalidation, so Carefree will have to set a lap time. MGST on his outlap, and here comes Mr. M. Battery not fully charged, but it's enough ERS to see him through this lap. Can Mr. M improve? As Carefree Veal now retires from the session, he does not have enough time to set a new lap, and that's his qualifying over. So down the turn 20 goes Hughes. Can he push himself up the order? He only is good enough for P11. He starts in front of Van Vieren, but Van Vieren currently is on a flyer. Unfortunately in validation, but ERS fully charged. And he sets off. This is his final time to set a time and see if he can jump his way up, all up the order. Right, jumping to G Fitzgerald. Joining a little bit late, but Let's see if he can push his way up the order. Currently sitting in P10 with 136.7. Can anyone top the time of Ernie Burney sitting in provisional pole? As G. Fitzgerald comes around the corner now, and he goes into provisional pole position. A 135, so to say flat. Great stuff from G. Fitzgerald as Ernie Burney jumps into the pits with invalidation. That's his qualifying over. And MGST, all eyes will be on him. He's currently running in 2 minutes time, so this will not be an improvement, and he has not enough time to improve his lap. Does he? ERS fully charged. And off he goes. Yes, he does. He has 30 more seconds, and this will be his final chance to put a lap time on. Next to cross the line will be Mr. M running really wide. Only good enough for P4. The Aston Martin of Saki Biener jumping into the pits. That's his qualification over. Next will be Hughes. That will be his quali over as he's invalidated. AYB still on an out lap. So he will not have enough time. Oh, this is Piagos. Of course, this is a new driver, so really excited to see what he will bring to the table. Mr. M retires from the session, and who is still on their flyers? Van Vuren, but of course he is currently with invalidation, and now it will be G. Fitzgerald already 1 second up on his time, so this will be no improvement. AYB. Also, little bit of struggle here. And yes, of course, the times for P1, P2, and P3, they are extremely close. P3, P4, P5. Let's just take a look there at... Right, as Tozy now makes his way down the final straight. Is this an improvement? Only stays P10. The Ferrari of its JD currently 2 seconds up on his time. This will be no improvement. He will be followed by MGST, who's also invalidated. He was running faster on this lap. Let's see what this time would have been if he was managing to keep it tidy. It was a 1:40.34.9. That would have been good enough for pole position, but invalidation, and MGST will have to start third on the grid. And that is qualifying over. So pole position, Ernie Burney, great lap from him, waiting till late to send that car. And he finds himself in P1. What a lap from G. Fitzgerald. So your final classifications will be G. Fitzgerald takes pole position. Ernie Burney will join him on the front row of this grid, followed by MGST and Mr. M. Detroit takes 5th, Saki Biener in 6th, it's JD will take 7th, Giatozi 8, AYB 9, and in P10 will be the mechanic, Hughes 11, Van Vuren 12, Pierre Goos, a new driver in P13, 14 will be Tree, and Carefree Wheel 15, MM Slayer will be in 16th, and I'm really looking forward to see how this race will unravel. As always, qualifying is always a little bit slow, but expect things to heat up because the race is moments away from happening. And just for interest's sake, let's just run you through the track layout. So from the grid, the drivers will have a 700-foot run into the first corner, going into a sharp left-hander. Turn 1 sees an elevation of 133 feet, even steeper than Radlin in Spa, as it climbs even faster in a very short distance. Turn 2 will see drivers sweeping at high speeds, taking them into turns 3 and 4, which are modeled after Silverstone's, Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel sequences. Drivers will hit speeds of almost 200 miles an hour as they flick their cars right to left and left to right. Turns 5 and 6 complete the Silverstone sequence in which drivers need to be precise on throttle to carry speed all the way through. Turn 7 and 8 takes drivers through the corners based on Interlagos's, Senna S's, and after a series of very quick right to left transitions, turn 9 will come at them extremely quickly. Turn 10 is a very fast left-hander that ends into a very sharp hairpin of turn 11. Down into a 0.62 mile straight that will see them dropping all the way from 200 miles to 60 miles to make it through a very light, sharp, tight left-hander of turn 12, turn 13 and 14. So it's all about the build up to 15 to make sure they have the angle to attack 15, which will force drivers to slow their cars down to 60 miles and will test them to see if they can get the right racing lines. And as we have done with that, we have 5 lights. We are almost off. And there we go. We are off. Sorry I could not take you through the rest of that grid, but we are off. And Ernie Burney is on the inside of G. Fitzgerald, who will take P1 around the first corner. It is still wheel-to-wheel battle with Ernie Burney and G. Fitzgerald. Did we get drivers going away? Did we get drivers going away cleanly? Yes, we do. Right. G. Fitzgerald and Ernie Burney going at it, and he's leading this race. Where is MGST? He needs to outscore, obviously, True Loki, who's not with us, to win this championship, so he needs to keep his nose clean. But the toy is right on his rear, and we have contact down at the back with AYB and the mechanic. Was it? No, it was close. No, it was AYB and it was the mechanic, sorry. Do we have more contact? We have Hector and Kratos going at it. They seem to be ghosted, at least only for now. Up the order they go. It will be downforce versus straight line speed. Who will have the downforce? Who will have straight line speed? Because MGST has to concede another position to Mr. M. Drops to P5. So not the start that MGST would have wanted, but he gets the position back on the toy. And did he run him a little bit wide? Right, G. Fitzgerald leading this race, and we have more yellow flags down into Sector 2. Who went off? Not too sure who went off, but I think we do have two ghosted cars of Kratos and Hector. Right, back into the lead. G. Fitzgerald has a commanding lead of 1 second over Ernie Burney. Mr. M sitting in third with MGST, JD the Toy Tree, Fun Fear and Carefree, and Saki Biena currently running in the last point position. It is still all to play for, as Hector and AYB having a little bit of a scrap of their own. AYB does seem to have a good amount of straight line speed, fighting the ghosted car of Hector. Right, let's see. Can the toy now get the jump on MGST, as he's putting a lot of pressure on him? Your tire compounds. Only Saki Biena opting for the hard tires, so everyone else opting for the mediums. And MGST at this moment seems to be struggling for pace, as MYB and Carefree may be having a moment with one another, exchanging positions. Right, we have yellow flags down into Sector 2, and that will be G. Atozi having a little bit of a moment. MM Slayer running way down the pack in P18, but it seems as though Ernie Burney has now picked up his pace. G. Fitzgerald not managing to gain too much on him. So your strategies will be: look for drivers to pit roundabout lap 12, lap 13 on these medium compound tires. Of course, Saki Biena, if he doesn't have an incident, can run a little bit longer. As we have Kratos and Mechanic going at it. Mechanic sneaks past his way through. Not a bad move from the Mechanic. Unfortunately, we missed it. And G. Fitzgerald now a 1.6 second lead over Ernie Burney, with Mr. M following, followed by JD and MGST dropping. Starting in P3, now finding himself in P5. G. Fitzgerald with a new fastest lap, as we have Hector and Van Vieren going at it. And we have Hector back. That is good news to see, as Carefree Fuel now has a 3-second time penalty, and Van Vieren jumping into the pit lane. ERS is now activated. So does Van Vieren have a little bit of damage on that car of his? That might explain why he jumps into the pits this early. Right, Saki Biena, and was a Tree and a toy going at it. Right, now he's right on the rear of the Tree. Trying to sneak around the outside. They laid on the brakes, and the toy concedes the position. Maybe he wants the helping of DRS down the back straight. There we go, not too shabby. Great move from Tree. Great move from him, but now the toy will have DRS. Right, here we go. 0.69 miles of straight, as we have yellow flags down into Sector 2. And will the toy have the DRS and the straight line speed to get this move done? He is gaining. He's gaining. Will he switch to the inside? He does so now. Who will be latest on the brakes? He's a car length in front, and look at Tree taking the little switch around back into P6. Great little scrap between the toy and Tree here, as AYB and Saki Biena also going at it, and not too far away from them is Carefree Veal. What a great battle from these two it's been. The little switch around from Tree. What a move that has been. And Ernie Burney still staying with G. Fitzgerald, only 1.4 seconds up the road from him, and Mr. M 1.56 away from him. More yellow flags. That will be Giatosi again having a little bit of a nightmare of a race. Hopefully he will be able to pull it through. Up onto lap 4, as we have the toy and Tree still going at it. At a moment, MGST drops to P7. He's fighting to win this championship, and now he will be vulnerable from AYB as well. Right, let's see what's going on here. AYB tries a little switch around. MGST, will he try to defend? And the toy seems to have dropped off the pace of Tree, so he has now got a 2-second lead over him. And now he sets off to hunt after Mr. M and the final podium positions thus far. Currently running in a fastest Sector 1. Not a bad start from Tree. What a start this has been. More yellow flags into Sector 3. Giatosi again. Right, so somewhere along the line, G. Fitzgerald might have had a moment because now Ernie Burney is right on his rear. Hughes with a 3-second time penalty. And now they will go wheel to wheel into it. Around 12, turn 12 they go. And Ernie Burney sneaks past G. Fitzgerald and he's leading this Grand Prix. So somewhere G. Fitzgerald must have had a moment. But now G. Fitzgerald will have DRS on Ernie Burney again. Right now, through 16, 17 and 18 we go. Be careful on the throttle because these cars are heavy on fuel and you don't want to lose the rear end of this car. Running very wide lines indeed, and G. Fitzgerald is now slowly but surely dropping away from Ernie. Battles at the back. We have Saki Biena, Carefree and the mechanic going at it. And at this moment, MGST finds his way in P6, not where he would have wanted to be. Right, G. Fitzgerald and Ernie Burney scrapping away at it. This is currently the closest battle out on track, as now gaps are slowly but surely starting to appear, as Kratos is having, well, not a moment, but pretty soon with DRS will have a battle with him. Right, so will G. Fitzgerald have the straight line speed and the DRS to attack Ernie Burney and retake the lead of this race? Saki Biena and JD will also be going out down the back straights. Right, it's all to play for. Let's see, as we head down the main straight now, Mr. M joins in the fight. He now has DRS on G. Fitzgerald, and G. Fitzgerald still luckily within DRS range of Ernie Burney, as you see that rear wing of him open. Right, back to Carefree and the mechanic now, as they have a little scrap of their own. Will Carefree get the jump back on the mechanic? DRS will be activated for him, and it seems as though he's got a good amount of top line speed. Now makes his way past the mechanic. MGST currently 2.3 seconds away from the toy, who's at the moment having a very lonely race. 2.4 seconds ahead of him is Tree, and 2.3 behind him is MGST. But we now do have a three-way battle for your first place position, as Ernie Burney, G. Fitzgerald and Mr. M are going at it. Right, now does Ernie Burney have the composure to keep a calm mind and to keep the lead of this race? Only time will tell. The mechanic right on the rear of Carefree Wheel. They go at it, wheel-to-wheel combat, DRS wide activated. And he will be ahead going into the first corner. He will, keeps his position, forces Carefree Wheel to take the long way around, and the mechanic retakes this lead. But remember, we still have a 0.69 miles straight to further battle it out. Who went off? That will be Slayer having a little moment of his own. Back to the lead. We have Mr. M and G. Fitzgerald who will be going at it down the straight. And Lucas joined in the party. Tree not too far away from them. So now Mr. M will make use of this DRS. And it doesn't seem as though G. Fitzgerald has any DRS to defend with. So now, if he doesn't hurry up, he will be vulnerable from the attack of Mr. M. And a person with a lot of speed is Tree running in P4. What a race he's having so far. Right, down the main straight, we have the mechanic from Carefree Wheel from AYB scrapping it out. And Carefree Wheel gaining, going the long way around the outside, late on the brakes, runs a little bit wide, opens up the door, back up for the mechanic, and he stays in P10. Not a lot of gaps, but the people who are fighting it out it's Kratos now, and Hector goes at it. Into 12 they go. Hector brave on the brakes. Respecting the space of one another. And Hector pushes his way into P14. Good stuff from him. Giatosi running way back with Slayer. And this battle for P1 still not over. We have Ernie from G. Fitzgerald back in DRS range from Mr. M from Tree. And the toy slowly but surely the top 4 is dropping the toy, sitting in P5 currently, and now he will be under threat of a very, very eager MGST to work his way back up the grid. Of course, he is fighting for this championship win. Right. So is Ernie Burney out of DRS attack from G Fitzgerald? It seems as though he is, which means that means Mr. M will be smiling. Because if that rear wing does not open up, and no it doesn't, Mr. M will be looking to make this move. But it seems as though G Fitzgerald does have a decent amount of top line speed on that car of his. Mr. M is gaining, but he will not gain enough. Right. AYB right on the rear of the mechanic. And as you look at the rear of the mechanic, you see AYB making his way now into P9. He goes, and the mechanic has to concede that position. Right. Hector and Kratos now making their way down the main straight, the back straight. Right. So Kratos with a little bit of a bad exit. I believe he's too far away from Hector to make this move. And Hector will live to fight another day. MGST right on the rear of the toy. Down the main straight goes Fitzgerald, Mr. M and Tree, and you just can't separate the top 4 from one another. What a race this has been from them. And AYB slowly but surely now gaining on Saki Biena as Carefreeville gets himself another 3-second time penalty. Right. Ernie Burney needs to keep up the pace. Runs wide. No. He has to slow down to a great extent. And that means having a couple of bad exits. G Fitzgerald is right on his rear now. And he will have DRS to use. So now he'll be smiling with that. As Giottosi. Was that Giottosi? No, that's Kratos having a moment. Kratos' car facing the wrong way around. Back down the main straight. Back straight we go. From Ernie, from G, from Mr. M, and Tree's right on his rear. Can he make the move stick? Will he jump onto the inside? Will he be brave? Time will tell. Yes, he does. Great move, and he pushes himself into P3. And next up the road would be G Fitzgerald with a lot of top line speed. So what a move from Tree, moving up all the way into the podium positions. And what a race this has been from him. The toy and MGST scrapping it out, and the toy managing to keep MGST away from him as of now. And these two still scrapping it out. Quite a lot of good battles going out on track as we have 20 laps of racing remaining. The toy now 10 seconds off the leader. And MGST desperate to find his way past the toy. As you can see, late on the brakes, maybe getting a little bit frustrated. He needs to keep composure because he can seal the championship in this race. Having a bad moment right there, having a bad exit, and the toy lives to fight another day as we have yellow flags down into Sector 3. That would have been, was it Pierre Goos? Not too sure who that was. As Ernie Burney still under DRS threat of G Fitzgerald, and Tree is now right on his rear. So the AlphaTauri sitting really pretty out in P2 and P3. Now will G Fitzgerald allow his teammate to get past? Right, now down the main straight we will go. Tree will be right on his rear as he doesn't get the best of exits. Red flag flashing on that AlphaTauri. Harvesting. G Fitzgerald vulnerable. No DRS to defend with. And here he comes. Going around the outside. He's a nose ahead. Even Stevens around turn 12 they go. Runs a little bit wide. And G Fitzgerald lives to fight another day. And Mr. M rejoining into battle. MGST getting past the toy. Into turn 12 he goes. And he gets to jump on the toy. But 10 seconds away from him is Mr. M. So he's going to have to crack up the pace if he wants to get back into the podium positions. But anything can still happen. The race is still very, very young. Sitting really, really pretty is the two AlphaTauris running in P2 and P3. And Ernie Burney, a little bit of breathing space. He's 1 seconds now clear of G Fitzgerald as he had to fight off his teammate. This battle is far from over. You keep seeing that red light flashing on the back of that AlphaTauri. As Tree is now desperate to make this move stick. Will he have a better exit? Not too shabby, but it seems as though G Fitzgerald will have it covered off at least for now. But we still have the back straight, and it'll be difficult. Let's see that G Fitzgerald sitting with 8% of ERS, while Tree is sitting with 17%. So he will not have ERS to defend or attack with, but he will have an helping of DRS. Ernie Burney harvesting. He's on 45% ERS. G Fitzgerald and Tree goes around turn 11 now, and now 0.69 miles straight. Tree deploying ERS, but none of them have got any ERS basically left. So now he goes gaining into the slip. He goes. He's running out of straight, and G Fitzgerald seems to have a decent amount of straight line speed in that car. So if he can keep it tidy through Sector 1, he might be able to fend off Tree. Remarkable battle from these two. There will be no team orders here tonight. If you want the position, you have to overtake me on track. At least that's what he's saying. As MGST is not dropping away, dropping away from the toy, who's still in DRS range, and the teammates of the Ferraris have joined the pack now. It's JD right on the rear of his teammate, the toy now. Will we maybe see team orders here? Time will tell. Let's go to your leaders. As Giottosi and Kratos, the two McLaren boys, is almost being lapped by the pack. Right. Going back to this battle. And somewhere along the line, Tree will try to fight his way through. This is brave battling from these two. He concedes, lifts a little bit. Doesn't want to be too aggressive through this sequence of corners, but he's putting mountains of pressure on his teammate. G Fitzgerald will be extremely vulnerable now as the toy gets back past MGST as well. So this is not over. The toy again gaining the position on him. Right. Down the main straight we go. He is only 4/10. Oh no, G Fitzgerald got a way better exit, which means he will be able to fend off Tree again. He's gaining, but I don't think he's close enough to make the move. No. MGST now getting back at the toy as well. And let's not count JD out because he's joining the fight as well. Right, look at this. G Fitzgerald gets a penalty. Tree does sneak around the inside. We have wheel-to-wheel going into turn 15. Now through 16, 17, 18 we will go. As now G Fitzgerald has the inside line. Forces his teammate a little bit wide. This is a remarkable battling from these two. Great stuff. And now Tree will have the inside line. Goes back into P2. But now G Fitzgerald is not done. Now he jumps into the pits. And he tries the undercut on his teammate. Oh, what's happened? He has a moment. That will hurt his time. Ernie Burney goes to the pits, and now Tree and Mr. M does have track position. And how many laps will it be before these two decide that they will go into the pits? The two McLaren boys having a... No, that's only Giottosi being his ghosted car. Right. Ernie Burney into the pits as well. G Fitzgerald makes his way out of the pits right about now. So who will he be stuck behind? He will be stuck behind AYB. Now, will he lose time? Oh, having a little bit of wheel spin. Ernie Burney sitting in P6. He has a little bit of clear air, but only 2 seconds up the road from him will be his JD, and he'll be closing on them very, very quickly. So now it is go time for Tree and Mr. M. Will they decide to push these tires a little bit longer, or will they jump into the pits? Tree seems to have a very good amount of pace, so maybe he will opt to stay out a little bit longer. As G Fitzgerald still stuck behind AYB, and Ernie Burney now closing to the Ferrari boys. And look at this, JD not making it difficult for his teammate to pass at all. That's great teammate from the two Ferrari boys. And maybe these two will now be looking to keep Ernie Burney behind them. It will not be an easy overtake for them because obviously JD will have DRS on the toy. And I don't think that these boys will be swapping positions. Maybe down the main straight, giving each other a tow. That's great stuff. Now, Tree does jump into the pits. Now, Ernie Burney has been stuck behind the Ferrari boys. So the question is, will he retake the lead of this race as he's losing more time? Where's Tree now? Now he jumps into the pits, a new set of hearts, gets slapped on, makes his way out of the pits. No, he's stuck. Only now. And down the main straight goes Ernie Burney. He did get past one of the Ferrari boys jumping into the pits. Tree makes his way out of the pits right about now, but Ernie Burney back into P3 he goes, and Saki Bien is sitting pretty in P4, but obviously he still does need to pit. He can extend on his stint on these hard tires, and we have yellow flags down into sector 1. Who was that? Maybe that was AYB. Yes, it was. So now Tree will be stuck behind Saki Biena, and Ernie Burney needs to get the jump on the toy. MGST, will he extend this stint? How long will he go before jumping into the pits? Hughes and Hector having a moment. No, that's only drivers going into the pits. Van Vuren in 13, Hector in 12, Pierre Goos in 13, and JD currently running in P10. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 drivers in front of him still needs to go into the pits. Woo! What a battle this has been so far. What a race this has been so far. MGST leading this race, but obviously he still needs to pit, and Detroit finds himself running in P2. MGST also with a 3-second time penalty. So the question is, when will MGST opt to pit? He's really lifting and coasting through turn 16, 17, 18. Into 19 he goes. What will he do? Does he jump into the pits? No. He extends, maybe hoping for a late safety car. We have yellow flags. Hector retires from the race on track. Right, we have a safety car. Did MGST miss that opportunity to jump into the pits? We do have a safety car, just as I said it. And Detroit now pits. AYB pits, the mechanic pits. And MGST just missing with the slightest of moments the opportunity to jump into the pits. Kratos with a drive-through penalty. And the track will now be bunched once again. So, G. Fitzgerald sitting in P6, the toy and the mechanic running in P7 and P8. And MGST, well, he won't lose as much time. How far is he in front? So let's go. So if he goes into the pits, MGST will only look to rejoin this race in P7 as it stands. He will be on a set of newer hard tires. Saki Biena obviously also does still have to pit, so that will promote him to P6 if he has to go into the pits. And he will be looking to get as much points as he can, because he can clinch this championship right here tonight, as we only have one race remaining after this. Right, sorry for the delay, chat. So as things stand, I was just working it out. MGST has to take P3 tonight to be crowned the Tier 2 champion in Season 1. So it's all to play for MGST. If he can bring this car home in P3, he will be champion. If MGST can hear this, he needs to keep composure. Let's see if the pressure will get to him. Right, as we have Ernie Burney from Mr. M, from G. Fitzgerald, from MGST, from the toy, and look at Saki Biena and Tree. Now, opting to go aggressive. Of course, that these medium tires will last them till the end of this race. So expect Saki and Tree to be extremely fast for the remainder of this race. This is going to be very interesting. I cannot wait for this restart. So running you through the order, it will be Ernie from Mr. M, from G. Fitzgerald, MGST, De Toy, Saki Biena, Tree setting in P7, but look out for him, looking very, very quick and very hungry. The Mechanic, it's JD, AYB, Carefree Veal, Pierre Gous, Hughes, Van Vieren, MM Slayer, Gia Tozy, Being Ghosted, and last is running Kratos. The only driver we have left from lost from the session is Hector. So all eyes will now be at the front of this grid. We will have 13 laps of racing remaining. 13 laps for MGST to find a way into P3 to be crowned champion of Tier 2. You will see drivers weaving back and forth, left to right, trying to get heat into those tires. The drivers on these hard compound tires will obviously have to work a lot harder to get some energy into these tires, and I cannot wait for this race restart. We will have 12 laps of racing remaining, and I believe that the safety car will be in by the end of the next lap. It is all to play for down here at the Circuit of the Americas, with the possibility of crowning a new world champion in Tier 2. As we are still waiting for this pack to rejoin under the safety car, still weaving from left to right, and let's hope and pray for a very clean getaway. Right, so the safety car will be in by the end of this lap. And just for interest's sake, I'm going to have a sneak peek at the constructors. Let's see what the constructors look like. So currently, it will be in Tier 2, Alpine leading the championship, but expect to see, well, if the mechanic can get a very good jump, expect Alpine to extend that gap. Red Bull running out of the points as of yet. AYB only getting 1 point. And can the AlphaTauri boys maybe snatch these podiums away? I am very, very excited for this race restart. I've said it once and I will say it again. We are spectating your potential champion, if he can keep it together, and snatch P3 away from G. Fitzgerald. All he needs is third position to clinch this world championship. So all eyes will be on this race restart. He will need to get a very clean getaway. Can the drivers in front keep him behind to keep the championship hopes for True Loki alive? And the safety car will now be in at the end of this lap. My mistake. I've been looking at the wrong classifications. It's a championship battle between the mechanic and MGST. My mistake. Sorry. I've been looking at the Formula 2, not the Formula 1. My mistake, chat. Okay, when we are we back on the racing? The safety car only making his way there, and back off we go. Right, so everybody does have a lead. Kratos gets a 3-second time penalty, and off we go. Who's off? Mr. M goes off. The mechanic goes through, Tree goes through, Saki goes through, Dedoy goes through, MGST takes P3, G. Fitzgerald running in P2 at the moment. And we have another retirement. JD's out, AYB's out. We have three cars out in the same corner. Each JD, AYB, and Pierre Goos out of this Grand Prix. Will we see another safety car? As of yet, no, we won't. Right. Ernie Burney from G. Fitzgerald from MGST, Detroit, Saki Benetry, the mechanic, Mr. M, Fun Feared, into the points he goes, Carefree, MM Slayer, AYB left the session. And I will be very interested to see what happened around that corner. 3 cars retiring from this race. Right. We have Giottosi and the ghosted car of Giottosi's ghosted car, and Hughes going at it. Hughes gets that free position. Easier overtake. And now, Ernie Burney and G. Fitzgerald, these two have been battling it out, well, since the start of this Grand Prix. So we have 10 laps of racing remaining. What will these two be able to do? As MGST is 2 seconds down the road, Detroit 4 seconds, Saki BN 5. MGST decides to jump into the pit, and this is going to hurt his championship, as now he will drop. But expect him to see, hopefully slapping on a set of medium tires, because the softs will drop very hard. And I see soft compound tires, so he's going to have to make these softs work. So expect him to see very quick, around 4 to 5 laps, but these softs will drop down very, very quickly. As Ernie Burney, G. Fitzgerald and MGST still make their way, fighting it out for P1. So as things stand at the moment, with the mechanic running out of the points in P14 and MGST sitting in P3, that the mechanic will only have a lead by 1 point. So only 1 point will separate MGST and the mechanic going into the last race. So MGST will need to push and maybe get a potential P2. My mistake for earlier, it was my mistake. I was looking at the wrong classifications. So MGST will not snatch this championship. He will only be trailing by 1 point as things stand currently. So G. Fitzgerald and Ernie Burney still going at it. So MGST will have to try and gain positions. We have yellow flags. That will be Giottosi. Was it Hughes? It was Hughes having a little bit of a moment. That's what the yellow flags were all about. Back to the race leaders, as we have not a lot of gaps out on track, a little bit of drivers battling it out. Saki Biena still managing to keep Tree behind him. And expect the mechanic to be extremely quick now on those softs, but they will drop very, very quickly. Right, Slayer and Mr. M, were they going at it? Carefreeville having a little bit of a moment. Right, so MGST currently running 2 seconds down the road from G. Fitzgerald and Ernie Burney. G. Fitzgerald, you will see that rear wing going open. Now, will he get the jump? Ernie Burney does have ERS to defend with, and G. Fitzgerald is running on empty. So he will make his life a little bit difficult. Down the main straight we go with a little bit of cars hunting each other down. De Toy still battling it out for P3. Van Vieren and Mr. M going at it. Van Vieren being forced the long way around. Will he try to switch back? No, Mr. M gets a great exit and keeps P7. Tree, in the meantime, did manage to get past Saki Bien, and now he's opting to hunt down De Toy as MGST 2.2 seconds away from G. Fitzgerald, who's now dropped out of DRS range from Ernie Burney. Ernie Burney with no penalties, sitting very pretty to win this race. As we will have 8 laps of racing remaining. De Toy hunting down MGST. Taking a very, not a tight line, that'll hurt his exit as De Toy keeps gaining, but on medium tires looking very, very quick is Tree, and he's hunting down P4 as it stands. The mechanic from P14 finds his way back into P12, and he needs to score points. Currently, he's got a new fastest lap. He needs to score points. Right, MGST does have ERS to defend with, and he's closing in on G. Fitzgerald, and now he will have an extra helping of DRS. G. Fitzgerald running on empty, while MGST saving. He knows he's got DRS, so he's playing it safely. He's gaining, but he will not gain enough as they enter turn 12. MGST will be looking to get the jump on G. Fitzgerald and potentially lead the championship by 2 points. That's only if the mechanic doesn't score any points in this race. So he needs to get back. Right, down into turn 20 we go. It's G. Fitzgerald who now will have a helping of DRS himself to defend MGST off. And De Toy still gaining, and Tree now right on the rear of De Toy. De Toy no DRS to defend with, and Tree only now in DRS range. So in a couple of laps time, expect to see some action down the back straight. Now, G. Fitzgerald and Ernie Burney cannot be separated from the start of this race. What a great race this has been from the two of them. And it's going to be difficult to choose a driver of the day. Ernie Burney trying with all his might to defend G. Fitzgerald. And if he can do it, it will be a remarkable accomplishment from him. What a race it's been from Ernie Burney so far. Doesn't set a single foot wrong, but he still has 6 more laps to fend them off. Still has the ERS to defend with, and G. Fitzgerald still running on fumes. MGST now out of DRS range, and here comes Tree. Does De Toy have ERS to defend with? No, he doesn't. So expect to see a move. Jumps. Will he be late on the brakes? No respect for racing. He knows this race is far from over, and he lives to fight another day. De Toy so far doing a great job fending off a very, very quick looking Tree. G. Fitzgerald now right on the rear of Ernie. Both of them on 10 lap old hards. MGST on 7 lap old hards. De Toy on 8 lap olds. And now the medium runners currently sitting on 7 lap old mediums. But those tires should still be good to finish this race off. Down the main straight we will go. Tree seems to be a little bit too far back, but expect to see action down the main straight, as these two cars still can't be separated. Only 5 tenths between them, and MGST, luckily for him, back in DRS range. Now he's been doing a little bit of harvesting. He's got 65% battery left, and G. Fitzgerald is on empty. He's running on fumes. Ernie Burney sitting on 30%. So if MGST can stay behind them, his move will be a little bit easier. But now G Fitzgerald closing in. Slowly but surely closing in. Late on the brakes. Let's spectate. Will MGST make use of this ERS now? G Fitzgerald running on empty. MGST not deploying, only making use of DRS. Ernie Birdie now sitting on 16% of battery. Right, does Tree have DRS on toy? Yes, he does. The mechanic now closing on 15 lap old heart of Carefree Wheel. And he needs to pick up the pace because he's a long way away from points, which he desperately needs. He desperately needs points if he wants to keep his championship fight alive. Because as things stand, he will only be leading his championship by 1 point. Out of the points so far, and as it stands, MGST will be trailing him with 1 point with 1 race remaining. Slayer now right on the rear of Janssen van Vieren. Can he make the move? Janssen van Vieren has a lot of battery left to defend with. And what a race it's been from your top 3 drivers. The mechanic now opting to make the move on Carefree. DRS will be activated. He does get a better exit. Right, expect to see him more than a car length ahead going into turn 1. Yes, he is not more than a car length. We have a little bit of contact, but no harm, no foul, as the mechanic pushes his way into P11. Now, 4.1 seconds up the road is the last point for this race of Giatosi, who is ghosted. So it will be a little bit easier for him to do this. Down the main straight, we have MGST deploying. He goes to make the move, going into turn 12. He's a noser in front. We have cars going at it, runs a little bit wide, has to take the long way around. And G Fitzgerald hangs on to P10, P2, but it's not over as MGST tries to get back at him. Now G Fitzgerald will have the inside line, and he still keeps MGST behind him. Oh, G Fitzgerald, a little bit of wheel spin. Now he's going into 16, 17, 18. He's got the inside line. He has to lift. And now G Fitzgerald back on the inside. Great battling, great racing, and while these two scrap it out, it extends the gap of Ernie Burney out in front. Going into turn 20. Now MGST, DRS by G Fitzgerald with a great exit. Going at it into turn 1. What will happen? MGST has a sniff. G Fitzgerald gets back at him, but he takes P2. MGST puts his car into P2, but he will be under threat from G Fitzgerald now and the toy. And as things stand, he will not be on the podium because he has that 3-second time penalty and there's cars closing. So MGST now has to pull some magic out of the bag and try to extend this gap. Great racing. Carefree Wheel, Van Vieren with penalties, the toy, and G Fitzgerald now trying to get the move back. Oh, Carefree disqualified for multiple penalties. The toy and G Fitzgerald going at it. We have yellow flags. That'll be Carefree disqualified from the session. Unfortunately for me, Mr. M, Saki B and NM going at it. And MGST now, if it was ever a time for you to be quick, now is the time. He needs to clear these cars by 3 seconds if he wants to hang on to P2. Janssen van Vieren and Slayer having a battle of their own as G Fitzgerald gets another penalty. That will drop him down. It's all happening with 2 laps of racing remaining. And MGST not managing to break away from these cars. So going to your penalties, he's got 3 seconds worth of penalties, and that means that as things stand, he will drop to P5. And the mechanic will be smiling because of that as he runs wide again. That will be track limits. Right, so this is far from over. And as these cars scrap it out, Ernie Burney keeps extending his gap. Van Vieren and MM Slayer going at it. Are they? MM Slayer at a moment, he's off. Right, down this main straight. No, not the main straight, sorry, we just finished the main straight. Tree from the toy, from G. Fitzgerald, MGST, and Ernie Burney will start the second last lap in a short moment to come. The mechanic in the meanwhile does manage to get his way back into P10, so he's into the points. Of course, as things stand, he will take P9 because the ghosted car of Giottosi will not be scoring points. And now 7 seconds up the road from the mechanic will be Van Vieren, and I think that is a little too big of an order for him. So back into the points. Any points he can score will be valuable for him. MGST, although he's doing a very good job, that 3-second time penalty will now come back to haunt him. The toy right on the back of G. Fitzgerald. Does he look to sniff around the inside? Lifting a little bit, coasting a little bit, but he will have DRS. G. Fitzgerald will not have any DRS to defend with. Now, if these two drivers are able to battle it out and scrap it out, it might give MGST the gap that he needs. So G. Fitzgerald from the toy, front tree. And now, who will have the better exit? None of them with any ERS to fight with. MGST closing on Ernie Burney. G. Fitzgerald from the toy, from tree. And they are not really having battles, but MGST will have at least one more lap after this to try and extend 1 more second. He's pushing for all his might, and this means that a helping of DRS might assist him. So G. Fitzgerald, the toy and tree still going at it, racing each other hard. The toy looking pretty for that final podium position. Now MGST, 2.6 seconds clear. If he can keep this up, the toy and G. Fitzgerald, they're battling each other. And as they battle, MGST has that 3-second gap. Not something that the mechanic would have wanted. But can he keep it up? Because we have 1 lap of racing remaining. He's right on the rear of Ernie Burney. The toy and G. Fitzgerald still going at it, racing each other hard. No love lost out here tonight. And it's a battle all the way into the last lap. What a race this has been from the top 5 drivers. But the toy manages to get back into those 3 seconds. Now he falls back out of it. And he needs this DRS now. Now he needs this DRS. No use saving your battery down this main straight. He has to deploy, as he does. He needs to extend, maybe get into that toe. The gap increases from 3.2 to 3.3. He will not try to make a move now, will he? Seems that he does. He doesn't need to battle. He's 3.8 seconds clear. As things stand, he will take P2. What a race this has been. As Ernie Burney now takes us through 16, 17 and 18. The toy is closing the gap on MGST. He needs to push into the penultimate corner. He runs wide. Right, as Ernie Burney goes around the line. 3-second penalty for MGST. Ernie Burney is a race winner in the Circuit of the Americas. MGST with a 3-second time penalty on the last lap gets demoted to P4. The toy takes P2, Tree takes P3, MGST demoted to P4. He'll be kicking himself. Mr. MP5, G. Fitzgerald drops to 6, Saki BN 7, Van Vieren 8. The mechanic, well, that's damage limitation for what's happened to him. takes P8 because of the time penalties off Van Vieren. Damage limitation for the mechanic, keeps his championship battles alive. Giottosi will be coming home in P10, but obviously he does have a ghosted car. Slayer basically will then be promoted to P10 to take the last point of this race. Kratos P12, Hughes P13, and this really has been a very, very good race. MGST will be kicking himself. Oh my word. What a race this has been. And if you give me 2 seconds, chat, let me just quickly look at something. 72 plus 4, okay, so that's 74. All right, so that is 56. So that means that the mechanic is leading this championship by 6 points. So it all comes down to the very last race to see who will take P1 on track. Oh my word. It's going down to the very last race between MGST and the mechanic, as now Ernie Burney makes his way to the top step. And well, if I have to pick a driver of the day, this is going to be difficult. What a race it has been from so many drivers out there on track. I mean, Ernie Burney, what a drive. The Toy, what a fantastic drive. Being put under pressure, being under pressure. What a fantastic race it's been from Tree. Woo! Well, guys, from my perspective, although it's so difficult picking a driver of the day with the drive that we have seen between the top three. Chat, bear with me. You know what? For being put under pressure so many laps, managing to keep composure, your driver of the day, I'm giving it to Ernie Burney. What a drive it's been from your Mercedes driver. Great stuff from him. Managing to keep drivers behind him, being put under multiple pressures. He's being hunted down by so many drivers, and that was a great race. That was a great race from him. So, your driver of the day, Ernie Burney, and this has been the end to a remarkable race. There is only 6 points between the mechanic and MGST. And now the final question, who will bring home the championship in the final round of this league? From my side, it's been a good race. Thank you to all the drivers out there. And from my side, much love to the drivers, and I'm out.